And while he's doing that, Gus, have you you checked our CEP compliance? Because Dr. D'Antona did a great job.
I'm
on
sure he
cel-
did. We did not get a report yet,
Okay.
but I expect one this week, and I'm sure you'll be number one like you usually are.
You're number one. Please note that for the minutes.
I second that.
Right.
Thank you, Francis.
If it's going in the minutes, you're
Francis
usually
just seconded
number
it,
one, number two, or number three. You're
it's
one of the
there.
top three.
It's there. Listen, Gus, you can't play all sides. You got to just say number one when you're here.
You've got a friendly competition going with 30 and 26.
It's not friendly. No, I'm kidding. It's friendly. So as you guys know, I tried something different. I hope it worked. I sent you our link to our webpage that I've been promoting instead of actually giving the sign in, because last year the sign in, Louis, you proud of me? And as I had said, all of these documents are found publicly because it is a public site on that webpage. So the night before, the weekend before, a few minutes before, if you want to log in at any time, you can have access to all of these documents. But I do publicly want to go through the minutes. This was Abby Lewis's presentation on the academic recovery program that we're doing for our special needs students. That is up and running. We're actually really excited about the work. It's 4 days a week in many schools and on Saturdays for some of our schools. All right, thank you, Louis. And Louis sent the sign in for those of you who have not yet signed in. But you know what I've been doing? I've been signing in as soon as I go into the website. Just go in first and sign in and get things. Okay, keep going, Louis.
All right, that is it.
Okay, thank you, sir. All right, if you could just pop the agenda up really quickly. Joe, good to see you. How are you?
Hey, Joe.
Good morning.
Okay, so do we have consensus on the minutes? Any corrections, changes? Anyone not in consensus with the minutes? Shirley, do we have consensus?
Yes, we have
Thank you.
consensus.
You're always the one that says we have consensus to
Consensus.
remind
I'm
me that
sorry.
there's no vote.
We have consensus.
Thank you. Thank you. So I'm actually going to just run through a couple of my bullet points here, and the review of DLT and district professional learning. Dr. D'Antona will go over in a minute, but I just wanted to update us on a couple of things that have happened in the district over the past month. So as you know, on November 29th, District 25 did their presentation of Brilliant New York City. I want to thank some of our DLT members for taking part in that. Shirley and Joe, you both led really good parent sessions. I went in and for some, like at some point I was like, who is this person? Shirley, I thought you worked for the DOE. You were doing such a great job. So I want to say thank you for that. And Joe, as always, you really helped promote the district vision of parent voice. You were continuously asking parents, now is the time for you to get out there, ask those right questions, be there. And as a CEC member, to really say, like, we represent you and we want to know what you're thinking about this work, because we are a parent body that supports you. So I want to thank the two of you for doing that. I also want to thank our teachers, our principals, our assistant principals, our paraprofessionals who were there for us to, to not only lead groups, but to make sure translations were available for our community. So I do want to say thank you. Now, as you know, we have a new mayor-elect who will be taking over at New York City starting January 1st. And this week, he just announced his new chancellor, David Banks, and we're really excited to share in his work. Once again, like everything, and I was saying this to the principals, it's just such a good feeling to know that District 25 can connect and align with the citywide structures, beliefs, and priorities in so many different ways because of all the work that we do. So once again, as the incoming chancellor was speaking, I was like, oh, we do that, we do that, we do that. So we'll be excited to hear about how they're going to connect and prioritize the importance of, and the next steps that they have planned for the department and for our schools and our students. So, but the one thing that I did really like about Brilliant New York City, and Louis, I think you just put the PowerPoint in the chat.
And the recording and the questions that were asked that we answered after everything's on the website.
So we had an opportunity to, thank you for that. We had an opportunity to really talk about all of the things that we've spoken about during DLT. And I think that's why Shirley and Joe were able to take over and run a parent group. And that's actually, oh, and Francis, I'm sorry, Francis. I know that, Francis did a great job too. Francis.
We had our Spanish line, and we
Yep.
had no Spanish representation in there at all.
So we had no one to give feedback. I don't know how it was advertised to them. There was no one there, which was kind of sad because Esther and I were just sitting there and we were actually asking the interpreters to give us feedback and we didn't know if they were the interpreters.
You know, Francis, we actually had a lot of Spanish families sign up and ask for Spanish
19,
translation.
19
Yeah, I don't
yeah.
know. Yeah, I don't know. And you know, that's actually something that we're going to talk to Esther and Jidmay about, just in terms of parent coordinators, because I think our parent coordinators do a really great job of outreach to parents. And I think because parents have relationships with the parent coordinators, they sign up for a lot of different events that are offered from the DOE, such as the parent event that I spoke about at the last CEC meeting, the parent engagement event for families that speak languages other than English, and supports that are in place for them. But then the actual event itself, there's not that the same attendance as had previously showed up. Now I was at that signed up. Now I was at Bell Academy for my school visit, and I had an opportunity to watch his parent coordinator run a parent chat for families who speak languages other than English, to make sure that they feel their needs are being met, their translation needs are being met. And even at that time, the parent coordinator had to call and follow up. So I think we want to get together and brainstorm to make sure that our families aren't just signing up for things because we're asking for their presence, but because they actually see value in what they'll be attending. So I think we're going to continue to support that. And as President's Council, both the District 25 and the high schools, if we can do that as well, because when I sat at that meeting at Bell Academy, we got a lot of really good information from families.
Remember when we did the Spanish chat, we got some really good different perspective on those ideas. So
Yep. So we want to continue to encourage that. And actually, that's what I would like to speak about at the President's Council meeting. You know, I'm going to speak about Brilliant New York City, but then I also really want to talk about parent involvement. And if you can mention that we did have a lot of families that requested translation, and it could be that, you know, sometimes they'll show up and the translation just isn't there, right? So it might be about a district commitment statement, you know, that we will have it there for you when you need it. Yes, Joe.
So what I'm finding is that a lot of parents, when they're put on the spot, they become a little bit intimidated and they like back off. They you know, even in my room, there was a parent there, and then I believe the parent felt that was on the spot and kind of jumped out of the meeting. So sometimes they're a little bit intimidated. We need to encourage parents that they can speak up, and you know, they kind of feel, especially if they don't speak English, they kind of feel that whoever's running the whatever it is has the authority, and they really don't have a right to say anything. So we need to encourage more families not to feel intimidated.
And, you know, I think I wholeheartedly agree with you. And I think our, you know, our approach in trying to be inclusive may kind of lead them not to participate, right? So we were saying everybody will have a chance to speak, and then people are called on to speak and they don't feel comfortable. So I definitely want to engage Esther and Jidmay and the parent coordinators and President's Council and CEC in really finding where our parents can have a unified voice around the things that they want to see across District 25, right? So as part of Brilliant New York City, and like we said, we don't know, and we're waiting. I know if you watch David Banks, he said on his day of celebration, he said, don't ask me about gifted and talented today. That'll all come out. So we don't know where that will be, but what we did have an opportunity to do is really capture some of the very strong work that's happening in District 25. And I really enjoyed being able to showcase that to parents. I do think parents valued seeing our expectations around our math work, right? Our work with Bank Street, and how we're starting when children are young and getting them those math foundations, so those learning gaps may not be as large as we progress into into the upper level of elementary through middle school and opportunities for high school as well. The work that we are doing with civics for all and computer science for all. And I got a lot of positive feedback from our families, which I thought was important for them to see that, because I don't know if they see really what's happening, in the powerful work that we're doing. So I want to thank everyone for helping to organize this. Lewis, really, to make sure that the day ran smoothly. I know that a couple of brilliant New York City events were a disaster because of technology. For Dr. Mike for helping to put it together. But I really think we were able to showcase our district in a way that I was very proud. So I want to thank everyone for being part of that. The second piece is that, as I had announced at the CEC meeting, Francis, is your hand up, or did I?
Yeah, no, when you finish, I just want to comment on piggyback what Joe said.
Okay. The second piece, as I announced at our CEC meeting, I was really excited to have our new executive superintendent, Dr. More DiGovaya, come and visit our schools. She really had a great day. She visited PS 79, she visited PS 499, PS 165, and then we ran out of time. She was supposed to go to Bell Academy, but she's absolutely going to come back and continue to work with us. She gave some really strong feedback to our principals about their work, but she too was very impressed in what she was seeing around our goals and visions, our goal and vision and mission of our district, especially the work around equity. And how we're looking to support our teachers in the culturally responsive work that we've been engaging in, and seeing students, this idea of understanding our students and what they bring to the table and how that shapes experiences within classrooms. The work with Dr. Maria Akinle, and she was very impressed at how we were doing that work. She was also really impressed with the math instruction that she was looking at in our early childhood and upper elementary grades as well. So, so really happy to talk about the progress of District 25 with her. And as I said, she's very smart and gave some solid, important feedback to our principals that I'm actually taking with me in terms of my other visits. But the real focus of that visit with Dr. DiGovaya was about how well do our teachers know our students, both academically and socially, emotionally, and the work and the progress that we're making in that area. So I was really happy and pleased at how pleased she was. She basically said, she runs all of Queens, and she said she doesn't have any superintendent doing the work that we're doing. So I was really pleased and proud to hear that. Okay, so in talking about that, I just wanted to give the last piece that we're going to do following Dr. D'Antona's presentation is, as you saw in the minutes, we talked about planning our SLT training. So I'm going to have Lewis talk to you about how we can pick some dates that work for all of us. I think now more than ever, we should really start thinking about what we want to say to our SLTs. And that's going to bring me towards the middle of our meeting today, where I did ask Shirley to do a presentation. If after we pick the date, if there is anyone interested in doing their own presentation around what we want to tell our SLTs about our individual constituent work, I absolutely encourage you to do that. One of the things that I always talk about is DC 37. When I first started as a superintendent, there was not DC 37 representation on many of our SLTs. That was DC 37's real support level in District 25 to ensure that there was a voice for our DC 37 staff on SLT. And now every single one of our SLTs has a DC 37 rep. So this training for our SLTs is about supporting constituencies to help the SLT work together as one body to become that decision-making body around the needs of their school. So I do encourage you to just shoot me an email if there's any presentation that you would like to put together and that you would like to show to our our SLTs. I know the UFT for many years, Lamar, I mean, totally up to you, but they really talked about the importance of constituency voting, right? To make sure that all of your SLTs understand that each constituency runs their own election. It is not driven by anyone but the constituency, and to really focus on the importance of that representation. When I was a principal, I made a lot of decisions for my school through my SLT. And when the community came together and voiced concern, we stood together as an SLT and said, we made this following decision for this way. But at the same time, I also truly focused on the importance of every member sitting at that team understood that they were there to further the improvements of the school as a whole, but they were the representation for the constituencies they serve. So completely up to everyone about what they would like to present. And then once the decision is made, Dr. D'Antona, myself, and Lewis will begin to put together the training, and then we will send it to everyone for feedback. So we're going to spend some time picking that date following Dr. D'Antona's presentation. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Dr. D.
Sure. Good morning, everyone. Hope you guys are all doing well. Had a nice weekend. I'm going to share a little bit about the current state of professional learning. Also, just to kind of recap from last session, where our goals are now with the new template that has been shared with us to align our goals to. So the new template that was shared with us is aligned to the Chancellor's 6 instructional priorities. So we've kind of realigned what our goals were. So from ELA and math to the other priorities that the Chancellor had set for us, and there is nice alignment. We just want to make sure we go through that one more time with you guys as this information begins to get input into the new template and be prepared and ready to go, as I'm sure Gus will probably mention at some point too, just in relationship to goal setting in the new template. So let me just share my screen. Now, of course, this is what happens when you have 9 million windows open. Okay, so greetings. Did that district goals? We have 6 of them. Prior to that, we did have 5 goals, which were aligned to ELA, math, school leadership, parent engagement, and supportive environment. We had 6 goals. We had two goals in our parent engagement component. Now we have 7 in alignment with the new expectations from the new template. So our ELA goal, we connected into the focus on early childhood literacy, as it does connect very well. All of our schools are expected to really engage in the analysis of data with a focus on targeted subgroups based on what that data says. For us at the district level, we do know that that our Hispanic and Black populations are our focus group. So you'll see inside of our schools a real targeted approach towards MTSS and ensuring that our children are receiving the supports needed in order to improve literacy outcomes. So there's alignment between our ELA and the focus on literacy as set forth by the Chancellor. Our math goal, we did see a nice alignment to ensuring our students are college and career ready. One of the components that is an element that demonstrates that when children are ready in mathematics, they will be ready for high school and beyond. So our focus continues to be on providing supports in terms of math instruction, and as Danielle mentioned earlier around Bank Street, that is our building block of this work inside of early childhood and built through Algebra for All through our middle school years, so that we provide as much access as possible for all of our students to have the ability to take Regents level coursework. So you'll see that connection between our math goal and the college and career readiness goal that you'll see here on the right. Our school leadership goal, this one was very much connected to students with disabilities and really promoting and improving our structures so that our children that do have special needs are receiving the supports that are necessary for them to grow. This is in large part to the work of MTSS, But just as important is the academic recovery work that our schools have really been doing a lot of organizing and supporting the implementation of those additional recovery services that our kids are receiving right now across our schools. They've prioritized and they have been organized based on the data systems that they've established at the school level. In terms of our supportive environment goal, we connected this to culturally relevant and sustaining curriculum. Our goal was aligned with the Civics for All work that all of our schools in District 25 are participating in. They are in the process of developing their implementation plans at this moment. The vast majority of our schools have already done their implementation plan and have already started to organize the rollout for the Civics for All work. You'll see, we'll talk a little bit in a few moments as to what we've seen as a result of that, which is actually pretty exciting work that's going on in our schools, specifically in connection to the development of social action projects. Our kids are definitely engrossed in that work, and I've had the opportunity over the past couple of school visits to see evidence of that happening in classrooms and then inside of presentations, which I'll talk about a little bit more in a moment. In terms of parent engagement, we've connected this to the component that from Central that's connected to greater support for our multilingual learners. So we did make an adjustment to this goal so that at minimum one of our parent chats is connected to support families who speak a language other than English, so that we are bringing our families in, gathering some input and feedback so that we can improve outcomes for that subgroup of students. We are going to continue to maintain our expectations around chronic absenteeism, although there is not necessarily a component for that in this new template. We are still maintaining that focus because it is extremely important. As you guys know, when our students are in school, they are much more likely to improve performance than if they are not. So we are still continuing that work on a routine basis. And the last component here is around developing students as digital citizens. And this we've aligned to our work with Apple. And you'll hear a little bit more about what that is in just a moment as I go through the professional learning updates. But the goal of that is that all schools will be designing and implementing a transfer-based task that includes the use of technology in their within the context of the task development and implementation. Now, does anyone have just pause for just 1 minute? Any questions around the alignment of these goals? Things that you're not sure about the connections between where we were and where we are now. So from ELA to focus on early childhood literacy, from math to ensuring college and career readiness, from the school leadership goal that we had to special education, supportive environment to the culturally responsive sustaining curriculum, the parent engagement to the multilingual learners, and then finally the digital citizenship. So just take a minute to pause, and if you have any questions or concerns or feedback, this would be a great time to share it. Take a few seconds to reflect on that. Any comments?
Okay, so we should transition.
Yeah.
Now he's going to show you implementation. And you know what, I do want to say one of the most important things that Dr. D'Antona and I are working with our principals on and really honing in when we do our school visits is that our principals, assistant principals, guidance counselors, parent coordinators, and in turn teachers have engaged in some really powerful professional learning aligned to our district goals across the year. And I would say years, even throughout the pandemic. And this year, Dr. D'Antona and I are supporting our schools around implementation, to not just say we're going to train, but now to actually visit classrooms and look for examples of this work, to look how principals are supporting it, how teachers are implementing it, and how teachers are receiving feedback in those areas. So that is the work that I showed Dr. DiGovaya a week ago today when she came and visited our schools, because as you all know, my superintendent goals are directly aligned to the goals of the district. So Dr. Daytona is going to start talking about our professional learning and what that looks like across the district, and some evidence and examples of implementation of this work. So
yeah, so the CRSE training, whoops, sorry guys. The CRC training, we had cohorts of schools, cohorts of teachers and administrators across all of our schools engage in CRC training with Dr. Kinyele. The focus of the work is on really building, our knowledge of students, as well as the organization of our lessons and units to promote cultural responsiveness inside of our classrooms. So all of our schools have engaged in 8 sessions. December 8th was the final session inside of this cycle. The end result of these training sessions was that cohorts of teachers within their schools and administrators within their schools organized units of study that really promoted the what Dr. Kinyele has coined, that what she refers to as the Jediah framework. And in the Jediah framework, it really asks our teachers, as they're organizing and designing their lessons, to consider where their work can engage children through the lens of justice, through the lens of equity, through the lens of diversity, through the lens of identity, and through the lens of action. And those are the things that we've kind of challenged our building leaders and such to reflect on. And they have organized their lessons and units accordingly based on those 5 areas. And what you see here, what you see here is the framework that they've learned from inside of their work back in their schools. So where is it inside of their work that they can engage children in conversation around power, privilege, bias, oppression, societal problems of local, community, national, and global context? Any isms, racism, sexism, ableism, classism, fairness and unfairness, and where inside of that work are they seeing opportunities for them to design their lessons and units in a different way to ensure that children have access to conversations that are really going to promote equity across our classrooms. And what we have seen is, our schools really dig in and starting to design and organize those units in that way. One of the other important parts of this work was around really getting to know our students. And part of that, and what many of you would see inside of our schools, is the use of tools that Dr. Kinyele has shared with us in the form of I am poems, in the form of the name story activity, and a variety of others, where teachers are providing students with opportunities to share a little bit about themselves so that we can use that information to support our curriculum and lessons moving forward. So this is just an example from a student that completed one. I am from pencils, from paper and Rubik's Cubes. I am from the dark blue door, the comfortable atmosphere. I am from hydrangeas, the pine tree whose long gone limbs I remember as if they were my own. I'm from the Lunar New Year and allergies to everything pollen. From Tony and Joy, I'm from waking up tired and working hard, and from cooking well. I'm from think before you do something and be responsible. And if perfectly good was pure white and completely evil was pure black, everyone would be a shade of gray. I'm from drawing competitions. I'm from Queens and Taiwanese, rice and soy sauce. From a young girl, my grandmother who survived the bombing in Taiwan, my grandmother carrying her baby brother to safety. These things are remembered so well, they are part of our soul. So these types of activities are intended, not only is it promoting literacy, but it's also enabling children to share a little bit about who they are and who their families are, so that we get to know them better, which will hence, hopefully, the goal is to support our lesson and unit design thereafter. So these are the little types of things that we're engaging in terms of activity-wise. Danielle, do you want to say something?
Yeah, I mean, I think that one of the positive things for me is, as Dr. D'Antona and I are going through schools, we're seeing our teachers engage in this work. So we spent some time making those social emotional connections, and now we're moving to really getting to know your students well from the lens of diversity and where our students come from and what they bring to the table. And last week, I also had a visit to Bell Academy where I sat with his student equity team, and they're really doing with Dr. Abbott. I'm talking about him, with David Abbott. So they're really doing work around how diversity can be appreciated and celebrated across the district. So they created a mural where it has the District 25 tree, and then there's mirrors, and then on the other side of the hallway, there is a tree that's made out of flags that are represented from every country that students that attend Bell Academy represent. And they took me to the tree and they made me look at it, and they said to me, "Who are you?" Which was I said, "You're asking me such a powerful question." I was like, that's a very powerful activity that the students want their visitors and each other to engage in. So I'm really proud of this work, because in meeting with a group of students, they do feel seen and recognized in ways that they never had before. There was somebody who said, "I'm Filipino, and I've watched a lot of celebrations happen, cultural celebrations happen, but my culture was never celebrated," right? So I want a seat at the table to make sure that everyone is recognized, and what that looks like in our school right now. We're not 100% sure, but we know what we want to see. So I love that this work is happening across our schools. We were in another, I think it was third grade class, where the teacher engaged in a windows and mirrors activity to talk about what you see similarly in students and what you've always looked out at. And it was just so nice to see students engaging in looking at their diverse similarities, but also what makes them individuals. And so we're really proud of the work that's happening across District 25, because we do know that when you see multiple perspectives, it makes you smarter, right? And more well-rounded, and that's what we're looking to do. So
Yeah, and similar type of experiences as I visit schools, and one school in particular, their student government has now taken on the expectation of growing what it means to celebrate diversity on a daily basis. One of the children said to me, we just had a diversity celebration week, and what she said is that she and her peers decided that was something they were going to bring to the principal and say, well, how can we make sure that we're celebrating every day? So that's actually what they are now working on as a collective group to organize as a school community. So it is certainly, certainly being seen across our district schools, which is exciting. Our Bank Street work, we have just completed session 2 for each of our cohorts. We have teachers and administrators across our district schools with children in grades K through 2 who are participating in the work. And what you will see, and what you did get a chance to also see during Brilliant NYC, was an example of what that kind of a task would look like. But something that they're also embedding is this idea of quick images, where children have an opportunity. So you see this image that's on the screen right now. This would be flashed up for a second or two for students to then kind of capture what did they see. And the goal of that is something that's referred to as subitizing. It's a really important math skill for our youngest mathematicians. And the idea is that children will get to a space of being able to just view this image and know what the count is without having to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and so on. So the idea of this type of math routine is really to promote our children's ability to visualize what is present and to be able to know with fluency what that number is that's present on the screen by going through this type of routine on a regular basis. So it is an activity that you will see across our early childhood classrooms, where little quick image cards are flashed up on the screen for children to kind of negotiate what it is that they saw, because it is the early steps for them to learn other skills such as multiplication, grouping numbers, they do have an opportunity to advance their math skills by something as small as this quick image. Let's talk about what we've seen, because they start hearing different perspectives from their peers around how they've organized their own thinking, which is really quite important for our early childhood math students. So that's just a brief example of things that they're working on in early childhood math. Our earlier group is really also building what that math foundation should look like, and starting with self in terms of what was their own math experience, and building from our own math experience so that we're giving our children the opportunity to explore and deepen their understanding. Because not all of us really did go through math in the manner in which we're engaging our children now, so that they can build that conceptual understanding of where these numbers are actually coming from. So that's really exciting work. We're really happy to see that happening. And as I'm going on classroom visits, and I know Superintendent Domingo as well, we're seeing the implementation of these tools inside of our classrooms on a routine basis. Apple. This is something we're really super excited about. We're in year 2 of this work in our Apple partnership. And as you see here, this tool that's on the screen, this is what is referred to as the ALT model, authentic learning with technology. And what the work does is take something that is a research-based approach, which is known as the SAMR model, substitution, augmentation, modification, redefinition. These are the technology-based skills on the left-hand side. And then on the horizontal axis, you see acquisition, meaning making, and transfer. Our goal is to make sure that our tasks promote opportunity for authentic learning experience for children. This is the place where we want our tasks to start moving, where children really see the purpose in the task that they are engaging in terms of a real life experience. So the intro to this work, which is at the highest level, was an example that Apple shares at the very beginning of the session, and talks about a young man who was in upstate New York, who was born without a hand. And as the students were contemplating what they can do for their peer, they decided to design a hand for him using a 3D printer. And at the conclusion of that work, that child was able to now use this artificial hand that was created by children in his own school. And that's at the highest level of the work. Children saw a problem. They used the technology in the form of designing it using technology and a 3D printer to create a hand that was functional for their peer. That's at the highest level of this work. An example of something that was done at the district level is a project that came from this work that Superintendent Domingo shared during Brilliant NYC, and this was an eco soap project, and providing soap for countries that were in need. The students, based on research and an article that they read in class around eco soap, organized so that they can, and you can see the mathematics in here too with their little graph, organized through their research and connections to Eco Soap Bank, was able to raise almost $3,000 for Eco Soap Lab, and had soap being able to be donated to countries that were in need. So taking something that was generally a persuasive writing essay and bringing that to a persuasive writing, but in the context of growing this work into a real world application. These children were then published inside of the Eco Soap Bank newsletter as a school, which is really what we want to be able to see our kids do: engage in authentic learning experiences that promote excitement and engagement. And one of my favorite parts of this were student responses. Before, when we wrote our first persuasive essay, the work I do in my class makes me want to take small breaks, versus after, the work I do in my class makes me want to do more because I'm helping people and making a difference. And that is really the crux of what we're hoping to get accomplished through this work, that we're allowing kids to really take an opportunity to see themselves as a change maker and that's what we're getting accomplished at this time. So we're super excited about that. Marianne Cucciara, I know you guys have probably heard us use that phrase, that name a number of times, as she is a consultant that is an expert in the field of literacy and mostly connected with our English language learners and supporting us as a district with that work. And right now we have a cohort of teachers and administrators across the district that are engaging in professional learning to promote academic language development for our students. And in her work, there are two places that we are currently paying attention to, and that is framed motivation, which I'll explain in a moment, and wordplay strategies, which is really around building academic language. So in this first little box, these differentiated frames, one of the things that Marianne trains everyone with and in is having some kind of tool at the beginning of our lessons that are going to promote opportunity for talk and discussion and use of linguistic frames to support our language development. So it might be in the form of a video, it might be in the form of an illustration, it might be in the form of a quote, and then having children have the opportunity to use these frames in order to talk things out. One of the really important components around literacy is certainly our ability to talk and using academic language in our talk. So this is something that you will see inside of our classrooms, the use of these linguistic frames in order to promote language across our schools. So things like, at first glance, I noticed. Upon deeper observations, I now observe. And the goal is that if we're able to speak about it, there's a greater likelihood that we're going to be able to use it inside of our writing as well. So that is the first part in terms of frame motivation. And I just have a couple of examples here of wordplay strategies. This is an example, and what you'll often hear us talk about is building from the base. And the reason why we build from the base is because everyday words are things that our children are going to learn with or without us in terms of in classroom. The language that they need the most support in is that academic language that goes beyond the idea of cry to wail and the difference between them. So one of the activities that our teachers are brought through is something called Draw It Out, where we're showing inside of the illustration the difference between cry and wail, and they are in different colors so that we can see the difference in terms of how one word carries more weight than others, more intensity. It's used for a specific reason. Why does the author use wail versus cry inside of their writing? And that's the type of thing that you'll see our teachers engage in by using the work from Marianne. You'll also see a lot of TPR, acting things out. That's just the idea of cry and wail is something that you'd be able to have children act out in class so they get in context what the word means. And all of these things are contextual. All from the text that kids are reading is the expectation, not these just random list of words for kids to memorize, but they're words that are coming from the text that they're going to be reading. So acting it out, total physical response, stretch it. You'll see a lot of these cards if you're in class. Marianne will often say that Home Depot doesn't like us coming in anymore because we take their paint swatches. But you'll see also here how these words are put into an array from hurt, injured, wounded, stricken to incapacitated, how each one of them is used for a different purpose. Why does the author choose to use incapacitated versus hurt? And that's language that we're encouraging our building leaders and our teachers to engage in on a routine basis to build that language for our kids.
So the important thing is as we're engaging in conversations with our principals and getting the expectation of getting to know students well, this is really direct alignment to what iReady is showing in many of our schools, that vocabulary and language acquisition is an area of focus. And if you think about it, like right now, I have a daughter who's taking the SATs. I mean, we should be starting this in kindergarten because she does struggle with the building and layering of words and the application of, understanding the difference between cry and wail, right? So I think this work that we're seeing is definitely having an impact on how our students are speaking, how our students are writing and applying it to their reading. So once again, this is something we've been doing for a really long time, but we're actually seeing it being applied across the district. So we're really super excited about that work.
Yeah, even just in a lesson that I saw just on Friday, where a kindergarten teacher is bringing children in terms of difference between happy and ecstatic. So it's happening even in our kindergarten classes, where children through the use of the mood meter in this case, we're able to kind of differentiate between those feeling words at the earliest of ages. So it is important stuff. And lastly, I'm going to just talk briefly about the Civics for All work. All of our schools are participating in Civics for All training. We have had 2 professional learning sessions thus far. All of our schools are in process of organizing their implementation plan. Middle school students are being offered the opportunity to engage in a participatory budgeting. They're all receiving an allocation of $2,000 to design their social action project around, whether it's local community or beyond that. They are also in process of something called Project Soapbox. All participating schools are having their children engage in research. They're organizing information and developing speeches as a call for social action on a topic of their choosing. And this work is really empowering student voice. I had a chance to see a number of children share their speeches with their peers. And you can really, really notice, number one, the passion that they have inside of the topic that they've chosen. Some things, to a real personal level of things that are impacting themselves or their families, or something that they're just really passionate about in terms of promoting their voice, from ensuring that they're, active, creating social action around the importance of having opportunities to promote creativity across their school communities and other communities. Call to action around diversity, ensuring that everyone has a voice. So we're seeing a lot of student voice inside of this work, which is where we are hoping to go and grow as a school, as individual schools, but also as a district. Really exciting stuff. And the last thing I'll say today is we are also, as a result of a number of these social action types of projects and listening to our kids during inside of their school, we are in the process of developing a district youth leadership team with a couple of lead teachers in the district that are going to really focus on one of the elements inside of our district vision in terms of embracing differences. And we're going to be gathering some feedback from them, and they're going to hopefully be taking the lead on promoting this across our district community. So super excited about what we're doing right now. And I think we're seeing lots of evidence of it inside of our schools, which is the most important part.
Okay.
Yeah. And if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to take anything that anyone has. That was a lot in a short period of time, but
you know what? I think it's important to continuously show our work, to say not that we're just writing these goals and this is what we model for our schools. And that's why, I said this morning, we're really proud of the fact that our CEPs are getting better, because principals are really using them in different ways to drive what's happening across their schools. So any questions? Okay. Gus, I really do. I'm going to actually bump Shirley up first, because I really want Shirley to be able to talk about her parent leadership role and how she's been communicating some of the changes that are happening to parents and her work on CPAC. And I know that Esther actually observed a citywide parent workshop that she had done, and said that she thought Shirley is really doing a great job in communicating with families, like how to best connect with their school community. So we did ask Shirley to present one of the presentations that she did. I think it was last week, Shirley, correct?
Yes, last
So
week, Wednesday.
Yep. So I want to turn the meeting over to her. And Shirley, are you going to need Lewis to share his screen, or are you able to share your screen and get everything up and running?
I can share it as long as I have the capability. I'll be able to share it.
Yep.
Good morning, everyone. The meeting that Esther is talking about was the Brooklyn Borough President and PTA Link workshop. It was the final workshop since he is now elected to as mayor. So this was the final workshop for parent leaders. This is a workshop that initiated from Brooklyn. I'm going to share my screen. They had asked me to present. All right, hold on a second. They want me to. Teams is a little different. Documents. Hold on.
Just let us know if you want us to.
Yeah, I have to close out the application in
Yeah.
Zoom. You have to open it up. And like, here we go. It should be coming along.
There we go. We see it.
Okay.
We got it.
How do you make it bigger here? All right. That's good enough, right? So we talk about parent leadership. So my tagline is to be involved, be engaged, and ultimately be empowered. And one of the revisions of the A660 help increase capacity for parent leaders, right? We can meet in different ways. And why we want our parents to be involved is obvious, so they know what is going on. Engaged to have their feedback, and ultimately be empowered. What does that mean? It means to make informed decisions. You cannot make informed decisions without the facts, without knowledge. And then you can articulate why you decided or what's the best course of action. And this also affects school leadership teams, PA, PTAs, presidents' councils. Here on a district leadership team, we want to be engaged and therefore also empowered. And we want to empower others by sharing the information that we receive here. So this was laser focus on the many ways we can meet. And I focus on the changes and the A660 where we, meaning PA, PTAs, and president's councils are now allowed to choose how we can meet for our general membership meeting. We can meet in person, on a virtual remote platform, or hybrid. Before, we could not choose. The Chancellor's Reg says we must meet in person. But in November 17th of 2021, the PEP unanimously voted for all the proposed changes on the A660. So they're no longer proposed, they are changed. So bringing us to the 21st century, not only the way that we can meet, but also our financials. So here I specifically is concentrating on hybrid. We know how to meet in person, and we've been meeting almost for 2 years virtually. So how about hybrid? What is needed to have a successful hybrid meeting? So the first step is where you're going to have. So hybrid is a combination of in-person and a virtual remote platform operating simultaneously. It's not two separate meetings, it's one meeting. So what we need. So where? So you're going to need to decide, and I'm going to go from the PA-PTA standpoint. You decide where you normally have your meetings in the building, right? Usually most of us are in the auditorium. Sometimes this is in a large classroom, a double classroom. So I'm concentrating on this one. They wanted me to specifically concentrate about my school. So in November 3rd, we had a hybrid meeting. It was a trial run because membership decided that during the winter, we're going to be virtual. And then when March comes, we're going to continually have hybrid meetings. So November was a learning process. In our school, at the school leadership team, Francis Lewis High School, we've been doing hybrid meetings since June. And this came from the parents. The parents wanted, especially the ones that were graduating out, since we were meeting all virtual, asked the principal, can we meet in person? And that's how we started having our SOTs throughout the summer. And now hybrid. So we came in person. So the equipment we use for the SLTs is in a smaller room. So November was a trial run to use the same equipment that we use for the school leadership team. So once you decided where you're going to have the in-person meeting, the virtual remote platform, you have to choose. Most of us are using Zoom. Some still use Google Meet. We're using Microsoft Teams right now. So you're going to choose your remote platform. Then you need the technology and the equipment. So it's the how. You need a speaker, a camera, and a monitor for the in-person. Virtual, you need a laptop and the internet. And then you have to assign roles and assignments. In the person, who's going to greet the attendees? Who's going to handle the attendance sheets and the documents? Virtual, who is going to put the attendance sheet and link? Who's monitoring the chat? Who's letting the attendees in? So having these ahead of time, assigned roles, will contribute to having a successful hybrid meeting. Technology and equipment. So first, the DOE email Microsoft use. We use our DOE email at schoolsnyc.gov, and after the changes to the A660, all PAs, PTAs, and president councils must use their DOE email for their financials. You can still keep your old email address for everything else, but when it comes to financials, you must use the DOE email that is provided to every PA, PTA, and President's Council. Now, the benefit of using the school's, your school PTA DOE email or President's Council, you have access to the DOE Zoom, which is free, and other many apps. So you need the laptop and internet connection in the building of the school in person, and you need the camera, speakers, and projectors, or smart board, a screen, a monitor. So I did a little chart. We have our DOE email. We're going to use our Zoom. We have a laptop. We gain internet access from the school. The school provided us with a laptop with internet access, camera and speakers, a monitor. So this little camera here, where you see is the camera and the speakers together, that's what we are actually using at Francis Lewis. It looked like a sound bar, but in the middle is a camera, and that camera actually follows the voice. So you don't have to move the camera around. It follows the voice of whoever's speaking. I'm going to go more into details after that. So again, this is a Francis Lewis High School. So notification, meeting notification. So here we have a brief topic of discussions and the meeting link and the health screening. So for our school in particular, you need to do the logistics. We're still in a pandemic. You need to still follow COVID protocols. Our school is a really large auditorium. So on the notification, we didn't have first come, first serve or reserved to the first 100, 200. Our school can hold 450 individuals with social distancing. So we didn't expect 450 people to come in person. So we did not put a limit on the first come, first serve on the notification. So on the notification, you put the register. We have people register for our meetings. So the registration link is there. And for in person, it's mentioned that all visitors must be vaccinated to enter the building and must fill out the health screening form. COVID-19 protocols will be enforced, and there's a link to the health screening form there for those who wanted to come in person. Of course, the normal 10 days in advance, 10 business days in advance at least, and the date and time of the meeting. So the day of, so you have your laptop with internet access, you got your camera and your speaker, and you have either your smart board, monitor, projector, or screen, and you have to connect them all. Fortunately for us, our principal is a tech geek. He actually is the one who went and purchased the speakers. He was saying this is going to be the wave of the future because engagement has not been so, and participation has been more increased since being virtually. This is one of the positive things that came out of the pandemic, that more people are able to join the meeting. And this is really especially good for high schools, PTAs, because most of the students are coming across the borough. They don't live around the corner, or they're coming from other boroughs. So parents are able to attend PTAs more now than before. They don't have to worry about dealing with younger siblings, taking them out to the schools, traveling right there in the comfort of the home. So our principal help us to put the technology together, the plugs, what goes into what, and the explanation on how to work. So we did a test run before the meeting came in. So in the proposed bylaws, they suggested added a virtual coordinator or a tech coordinator. Anyone who would like to add that, anyone who's good with technology, and it doesn't have to be somebody from the executive board. It could be anybody for membership to have this position to be in charge of the technology piece of the meetings. So when you are using the hybrid meeting, you must be conscious that you do not mute the person who has the laptop and computer. You cannot mute yourself. Otherwise, people on the virtual platform cannot hear what is going on in the building, and you cannot take off the camera. So you just must be conscious of this and remind people in person and those who are attending virtually that the laptop is going to be unmuted for the entire session of the meeting, and the camera will be on. What does a hybrid meeting look like? Well, this is examples of hybrid look like. You see the one on the right is like an auditorium, but they have a more fancy gadget there. They have like a production camera and such. This is a smaller setting, more like a working group or a school leadership team. You have some in person, some, or even executive board meeting. Again, in a larger venue, you have a screen, one using a projector, one is using a monitor. Everyone can see who's on the virtual platform, and most of the time, everyone on the virtual platform can see those who's in attendance in person. So face-to-face meetings, in person, virtual remote platform, virtually, and hybrid is right here in the middle. And these two circles are happening at the same time. Simultaneously, one meeting is not two separate meetings. Again, you see here, everyone is here. You have one person on the laptop here doing the technology piece. You see the individual in the middle on the screen speaking. Everyone have their focus there, and vice versa. Here again, to show that hybrid meetings, again, are one meetings. You can have one people on the virtual platform, people in person, and they are engaging. So working together successfully, and you will have a productive meeting. So you need to work with your school. You need to work with the parents to make hybrid meetings successful. I made it very short. How do you stop? Oh, here we go. Stop presenting. I made it very short because it's very for the CLT, but the hybrid meetings, we want to concentrate on the hybrid meetings because we know most people or most organizations would like to go that way. A parent that came in was saying, I'm tired of the computers. I came in person just not to be on a computer and have, that social emotional piece contact. So hybrid meetings is a way to go. And the necessary important piece is the equipment and how to put it together. And again, cooperation with the school and the organization you will have a successful and productive hybrid meeting. Thank you for letting me present.
So Shirley, I want to say thank you because one of the things that you're talking about is something that I know that I've engaged in discussions around with other parent organizations, right? Which is making a decision about how you want to embrace some of the nuances that have occurred in terms of parent engagement and attendance because of technology, but then also looking at, you know, the voting concerns and what that means as, you know, the difference between people getting together as a team, but then also being able to offer more access to their community. But with that, some of the bumps in the road are like, how do we do this? Right. So you're really starting that conversation because it is new. Like, what are our needs? What are our best options? The fact that they're talking about having a technology person on the PTA, I think is amazing, right? And it also incorporates other parents to come in a different lens. Like, you know, I might not be able to do everything, but I can do that piece, right? So I want to thank you for starting that conversation because I do think it's very important that our parent-led organizations are making some strong decisions about how they're going to utilize this work, what that looks like in terms of how they communicate and get feedback from their communities, and then where that translates into bylaws and their business. So thank you so much. And I know that next month you're going to be discussing changes to A660. That might be something that you also want to talk about with our SLTs. I don't know. That might be your PowerPoint for the SLT training, but thank you so much because it actually made me think about how we can speak to schools about supporting PTAs in the inclusion and incorporation of technology to reach more families. So thank you very much.
No problem.
Yeah,
Thank
I have
you.
a question. This is
Yep.
Francis. So as far as PTAs, SLTs, and CECs, I know that one of the things that changed is that we can vote virtually now, which we were never allowed to do through the access codes. But how does that work with if a board, whether it's a PTA board, a SLT board, or CEC, decide we want to do in person, and some board members want to do virtual? How would that work?
I mean,
Can
that's
I-
a vote.
Can I
Yeah.
answer
Oh, go
that
ahead,
question?
Shirley. Yep.
So right now, the CEC, there's no voting in SLTs. So that's everybody, it has to be by consensus. So there's no voting in school leadership teams. For the PA, PTAs, and presidents councils, they have to, membership is the one that drives on how they meet. The executive board, that's different, but they must notify the membership. But the general membership meeting, the decision is made by membership, not the executive board. Executive board enacts what membership wants. Membership is what drives PA, PTAs. And when it comes to CECs, the community education councils, they are subject to open meeting laws, which right now, the in-person meeting has been suspended to January 15th. So if they want to do virtual meetings, they have to change the law. Right now, it's been suspended. We don't know if it's going to refresh that suspension, but this is the time where parents need to lobby to change the law to add virtual meetings. I hope I answered.
The reason why I ask is I know Rashmi is part of the CEC, and she doesn't feel comfortable going in person. I believe her CEC voted in. The majority voted to be in person, so she attends the meetings virtually, but she's marked absent, and she's not allowed to vote. That's why I'm saying that maybe, I know this is new, ventures for everyone, but I think that needs to be looked upon because someone who is present should not be marked absent when they're in the meeting for at least 2 or 3 hours.
I see Joseph has his hand,
Yep,
but they're supposed to have hybrid meetings. It's because it's suspended, so they should not be marked absent. But
when they were in person, she was being marked absent, even though she attended the meeting.
So I'm gonna let Joe speak to that, but also I think this, one of the things that I don't want to do on our DLT is speak about individual people. So I want to talk about, I know that Joe did some work with FACE, and, there is a board. They are a little bit different in terms of they did have a choice as to whether or not they wanted to vote to be in person. And Joe, you can speak a little bit to that, but the CEC engaged in a public vote around it. Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, this has been a problem, throughout the pandemic, especially in the CEC that I sit in. So I've consulted with other presidents and other groups, and other CECs have voted on doing virtual meetings. Our CEC for District 25 voted on doing the hybrid. However, when it came to voting, our CEC voted on, if a CEC member is not present live, then that person will not have a voting right. The CEC member who does not present in person but comes on virtually, that's an excused absence, but they're able to comment. But again, they wouldn't be able to vote. But that was something that our CEC voted on. So I know it's a difficult topic for certain individuals. I always stress at the meetings as president that we are always open to changing the rules, but that has not come up for vote. So we continue to operate the way that we had voted on back in, I think, July or August.
And I think that talks about your constituencies, right? And it's about allowing, a board to run as a board. And like I said, I know they did work very closely with FACE, and the strong belief of the CEC was that if our children are back in school and have to present themselves live, their choice and decision was to do that as well, and to use a hybrid model, as Shirley was describing, for the rest of the constituencies, which was, we're going to do that hybrid, but their vote was to keep the CEC live. So there is a hybrid model for our CEC meetings. It's just that the CEC in itself as a board publicly comes together to meet. So, I mean, that was something that was vetted through FACE, and they worked through it together. So, but once again, it goes back to what Shirley is presenting, is that as parents and parent leadership organizations, that these should be discussions that people have as dictated through state law, but then also individual decisions that are made for the parent leadership bodies themselves. Okay, any other questions? Okay, so Gus, I am turning the meeting over to you.
Okay, thank you. And I have to tell you, I'm just awed by the number of innovative initiatives presented at this meeting. And Shirley, earlier, I think in the year, or perhaps it was over the summer, Central and I sent it to all the districts, issued a hybrid PowerPoint on how to conduct hybrid meetings that we put together from this central office. You've taken that information or done it independently and put it into practice. So I would like information from you on that to share with the technology people here at Central, because it's really an outstanding example of taking something and implementing it. And I've also asked for the PowerPoint because I'd like Central to know about all of these wonderful initiatives. So that is a segue to the structure of the DCEP. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over the structure, and this is a standard PowerPoint that we received from Central. But ladies and gentlemen, the challenge for District 25 is to take all of these wonderful, outstanding initiatives that you have and translate them into the template and make sure that they are understandable and visible in the action plans given the structure. So that is what I see as the challenge. Thank you, Louis, for your technology support once again. So I'm going to go over the template structure, and there's an example here. And you have goals, and based on the data that has previously been presented, and now these outstanding initiatives, the CRSC, which it speaks to cultural relevance, equity, disproportionality, and your work with Bank Street and all of the other things that you mentioned. You have to think about where they fit in into the structure of the template and make sure that they're highlighted, because I really think you have a lot to be proud of, and it should be reflected in your plan. So, Louis, if you can just move along
Yeah,
to the next
Gus,
slide.
you can take control at the top of the screen and you can progress at your
I
own pace.
can? Really?
Yep.
How do I do that?
Top of the screen, it says take control.
Take control. Oh, wow. I'm constantly learning things here. Okay. Now, will it become like a standard PowerPoint?
Yep.
So, okay. I see it small. Does everybody see it larger?
Yep.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah, it's good. Gus.
So, developing next steps in the DCEP, update the parent. Did we already do the policy? I think we did already.
Yes.
Did we already look at the policy? So that's done. So it's a non-issue in our case. It's just looking at the what's in there in the document and updating it. Now, on the 100.11 plan and the biennial evaluation, I'm told that FACE is going to issue that survey. And so we will get that survey in January or February, then get the results and be able to use those results to update the 100.11 plan. But you already talked about doing training, and you're soliciting information. And I've shared with you the resources that I have from Central that we're free to, work with and enrich. And as you always do this. You add to things for the training. The only thing that is needed, and I don't know whether you're going to discuss it during this meeting or subsequently, is the timing. Whether you're going to do it in January or February, when you want to do it. As in the past, I'd like to be part of it and support you in every way I can. And if you need any additional resources from Central, I'll reach out to Central to make sure that we have the representation that's needed. This is just some narrative about, all of this about A655 and that it's required. So here is the overview section. And as I've already said in the past, I have some data that I got from Richard Bellis and Queens North. He has a database where he's pulled some information from Central on your number of schools, the number of L's, SWD, just basic information, because they brought this section back. And it's important because the DCEP is one of the places that the public goes to see what is the basic statistical information on the district. So I'm going to work with the district team on putting in whatever I have, and you can look at it, correct it, and make sure that it's correct. Your mission statement we already have, and then something that you haven't talked about so far is in the new template, there is what they're calling an overarching priority. And you know what the 6 chancellor's priorities are, and you have the 6 goals already thought through and where they, fit. But I want you to take a few minutes and think about this overarching priority. And it's ensure high expectations and rigorous instruction for every single student, generated at, what does it say? It's a little small for me to read. And develop and strengthen welcoming and affirming school environment, implement inclusive curricula and assessments that center student voice, and then center time for ongoing targeted professional learning communities. These are examples of things that you could choose for your overarching priority. And you have a number of initiatives that will fit into this one or more than one. The challenge is to choose the one that includes as much of the others and the chancellor's goals that you're going to select. So, and below in number 2 is where a summary of your data goes. And you already presented a robust discussion of the data. So that's the only place in the new template where we have a general sort of data section. So that's sort of the needs assessment where the schools are doing root cause analysis and needs assessments and so on. At the district level, that's where that information would go. So that is something to think through. And then we have the various priorities that Mike has already gone over. And focusing on early childhood literacy is one of them. And each one has a desired state. So that is a new piece that needs to be thought through. And why, does the data have this need indicated? Then an outcome goal, which is the primary goal, like the goals that you already have, which is written like a SMART goal. You've done this over many years. But what's new here, ladies and gentlemen, is that there are what they're calling process goals as process goals as well. So those process goals, and there are 3 of them, are related to the outcome goal. So they're the superintendents have already gone through a training on process goals, and so the process goals relate to the overarching theme, and then they also relate to the outcome goal. So in early childhood, and I've sent a sample district team to see how Central is thinking this should be done. And you can use that as a model. In the interest of time, I didn't send it to all of you because I didn't think we had time to go over it. And then underneath are the action plans. And unlike in the past where you had to break them up into 2 pieces, the action plan runs throughout the year. They want an action plan, though, for every process goal. So the way my suggestion is that you deal with it based on my old proposal development experience is you take each one of those bullets and in the first box, write to each process goal, and then underneath in the action plan, just so you keep everything clear, put the process goal on the top and then put the actions for each one. I mean, you might have a better way of doing it, but that would be the clearest way, if I was thinking of this as a proposal, that I would put it together. So everything is organized and flows in a sequential and kind of logical way. If you have a better way to do it, please. This is not, director from Central or anything. You can see how they did it in the sample, but that would be the way I would put it together. And then under the next piece is the progress monitoring, which you've seen before. And again, they want a progress monitoring for each of the key performing indicators. And the way that's conceived is it's for the outcome goal, right? A target, a progress toward achieving the outcome goal for each period. So it's not for each progress goal, it's for the outcome goal. And you put in a key performance indicator, baseline data. You already have done a presentation on some of the, in the data presentation that you've done on how you're measuring interim progress already. So, and the schools all have a uniform system. You're in very good shape in District 25 in that you have a aligned system for schools to, follow their progress, and you got data. So, the summary of that is the way you would put that together here as well. Then you've got, as in the past, a family and community engagement pieces for each one of those outcome goals and for each process, which is a related piece. Well, how is the family and the parents and the community engaged in that particular goal? And just to remind you from the past, the reason why we did it this way is we used to just have a statement in the action plan to include parent engagement stuff, but we found citywide, not in District 25, but citywide, that in the action plans, very little was put in about parent and community engagement. So in order to make sure that that is always a piece, it was broken out into a separate box. And so it's there for each one of the 6 priorities, the academic priorities. Then there's the multi-tiered systems of support, just like the schools. And I know that you have gathered that information already from all the various schools. So that would be summarized here. And is STH there on the side? No, I don't think so. The multi-tiered system of support. This is kind of small on my screen. And then there's nothing new here. The DPFEP. There is a piece for STH, which I think was in the previous slide. So they brought that back, and STH is something that's familiar to you. I talked about it when we did the consolidated plan. Then the 100.11 plan, which we already talked about, goes at the end. And that's basically it. Now, the other thing I want to mention is, and I know that Bill Doyle is part of the meeting. I've talked to Bill Doyle and his team and the Superintendent Lindsay's team about the high school piece. The high school piece is the same as this one, with the exception, as you would expect, with early childhood. They are putting NA for that one. And so they are doing a separate piece for high schools. Not that it's separate, it's aligned to what you're talking about here. That's why they're engaged in the meetings. They're talking to any other superintendency that has District 25 schools. And they're going to produce another document like the one that District 25 is going to produce for the high school component, and we're going to put that in. It'll be like in the past, it'll flow right after the sections that I've gone over for the district. And I've already met with Bill, and I know that they're busily working on their piece, and it'll be based on the high school data for 25 schools. And maybe Bill will say something about that when he presents. So that's really the whole DCEP presentation that I had. It is a somewhat longer document than in, of course, especially for last year, because last year was an update version. So it was just a kind of a cut down version of the DCEP. But even in terms of the year before, it's a bit longer, but it is quite comprehensive and robust. And like I said, the biggest challenge I see for you is you have so many important and fine programs, is to make sure that they're reflected in the sections and in the action plans. So I'll take any questions you have on DCEP, and then I'll move on to just quickly say something about CEPs. Questions, comments? No, I guess not. Okay. Uh, Again, congratulations on, all of the things that you're doing. They're quite impressive, and I want to let the powers that be at Central that I have access to know about them. So, the CPs, as you know, the deadline for superintendent's certification was, I believe, Friday to start the process. There were some dashboard issues, technology related. Uh, I know that I'm confident that you will be number one, two, or three in the city, as you have been in the past in certifying all your CEPs. I've had some interaction with schools, so I'm fairly certain your CEPs are all in great shape. I expect to get a report sometime this week on any outliers, anything missing. Um, I have had some interaction with various schools and principals about the signature page. There are a number of options for schools to upload their signature page, and I have like a little link to that information that I've been sending out to people who have questions. So if anybody has questions on that, have them contact me. I've been getting questions. What if it's not complete? Should I put it up? And as in the past, there's nothing new here. Just attach a letter to whatever you're uploading and say, we haven't, we still need to do a UFT election, or the UFT hasn't, done its selection process yet. Along those lines. So whatever the issue is. And as I always say, I'm available on an ongoing basis, 24/7, to assist every school in the district. Everybody has my cell phone. I hope it's on, and email me, and I will get back to you. And I look forward to, let's get a training date scheduled for the SLT training. We also have I also have a separate piece, which is kind of a hybrid SLT and DLT training, and a separate one for Title One. So if you're interested in doing anything separate for Title One, I will make that available. I understand that Central has a webinar that they're going to make available at some point, I believe on Title One. I know that the district office, Esther and her colleagues have been working on the PAC stuff, and I know they extended the deadline on that. And if there are any PAC issues, I'm able, to whatever extent that I can, I will do my best to help and get you any central support if you need it in terms of the parent advisory councils. So with that, any questions on any of that other stuff, ladies and gentlemen? And, let me, just say, since I have the floor once again, what an honor it is to work with you all of these years and to still be working with you. It really is. I mean that sincerely from the bottom of my heart.
Well, thank you, Gus. Wait, hold on.
Hey, Lewis will do his magic. Okay, Lewis.
Wait, can you hear me? Did I mute myself?
No, you're good. You're on.
Thank you so much, Gus. Okay, so, Joe, I know you wanted to revisit a conversation. Yes, I see your hand up.
Yes,
Okay.
I'm sorry. I wanted to, because it's kind of important in that the PowerPoint and discussion about having the meetings and the hybrid meetings, and I know it may not affect President's Council or other groups or even SLTs, but like on the CEC, I've worked with FACE regarding how we conduct our meetings with the public meetings law. And because sometimes I don't think I don't feel comfortable in having a board member not having a say. So I was told by FACE, if there's someone that is not present in person, if you decide to work that way, that person, if that person discloses his or her location and makes it available to the public, then that person can have a voting right. So it would just, extend the venue for the public meetings, and that person would be able to vote. So that would be one way of getting around you are not being able to be present in person. Just disclose your location and go through the guidelines with FACE, and they will give you the floor as a public meeting space, and then you can make your vote. So that's kind of important.
What does that, I'm sorry, Danielle, I have a question. What does that mean to disclose your location? What does that mean?
So you have to give your address. You have to give the address where you are. Yeah. But you don't have to be at a home. You could be at a library. You could be anywhere else, but you have, and it has.
So that's only for CEC members, or that's anyone on a
any
board?
public body that takes a vote. My understanding is if you have, pursuant to the notice requirements of your public body, disclose your location, whether it's an office, a home, any other place, and that would satisfy the requirements of the public meeting law.
So they just give the address where they are. But that doesn't include parents when they vote from home.
No, that's part of, so because the CEC chose to and voted to be public and meet in person and run their meetings in a hybrid way. If you choose not to be in public in that way and wanted to vote, you can disclose your location within 48 hours.
Who are you disclosing it to? To the
public,
CEC or to
public? To the public.
So if I wanted to be from home because I didn't feel comfortable, I have to disclose my address. I don't think that's safe.
Right. Well, you don't have to disclose you could be other places. You could be anywhere else if you choose not to come in person.
I know, but then I just don't understand that. But this is what I'm saying. This is all new stuff. And this is things that have to be revisited. And these are things that we don't know when there's problems until we do it, execute it, and then we start seeing the problems. But I think that, I'm not quite sure why CEC doesn't work on that consensus like SLT, but I just trying to understand for when it trickles down to PTAs and, President's Council and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I think it's a little bit different because CECs are elected by the entire community, different from PTAs.
And
PTAs
we're mandated by state law, so we have to go with what the state.
But then you also have that the people voted this CEC member in, any CEC member that then if they just don't feel safe coming in, then they're not really being representative of the people that voted for them because they're not allowed to vote. You know what I mean? And then they have to disclose. That doesn't make doesn't make sense.
Well,
you have to
I think that, Francis, I think that goes to what, one of the things that I talk about is, being, understanding of your constituency votes, and then being and honoring the decisions of the people that you vote for, right? It's same thing with elected officials. I might not always agree with what my elected officials say, but I do exercise my right to vote and support. And if I have concerns, if the community has concern, they could always reach out directly to the CEC or any other body that they have issue with, right? But I think, it's not in any way, shape, or form the DLT's position to interfere with the decision making of the CEC, which is why, this is really more of an information based on what Shirley was speaking about. But we have no authority as a governing body to have any sort of say over the business of the CEC. So I just want to make that clear.
No, that's fine. I'm just trying to understand because it just doesn't make sense of how it's being implemented now. And because it's such new territories, it doesn't mean it's the right way to do it, is what I'm trying to say. So that I also think, just from somebody looking in at the discussion table of the CEC, the vote was about returning students to school and returning teachers and other staff members and principals and assistant principals. They felt that as part of the school community, and that was their vote, they felt as part of the school community, they wanted to show
a united front of returning back to school, and being part of homecoming. That was their vote and
Right.
their
That was
decision. That's
something that CEC for District 25 took on, voted on, and approved. Regarding the public meeting law, that's not my call, the CEC's call. That's state law. And I tell constituents, look, if you have a problem, take it up with your elected officials, take it up with your state
Yeah,
senator.
but that state law was done prior to the pandemic,
Well,
right?
that's something they need to then bring up to bring a change.
Right. So then that's what I'm saying. And
most
most of the public meetings, it was a local general, like you're in Linden Place. It's a general education building. Now you're asking people to disclose their personal locations of their family's house or wherever they are, and that's totally something totally different.
Well, I have to just comment.
I'm just saying.
We follow all the COVID guidelines, so we're doing everything.
Right, but that's right,
it's
but that's not
mandated by the state. And if a person chooses not to come to the meeting, we do not hold it. It's not an unexcused absence. So, that's the way we operate. And like I say, other CECs operate very differently, but that's their call. That's how they voted on it.
And Joe, you're in direct contact with FACE about all of this?
Yes, I'm constantly communicating with FACE because it's something that comes up every month at our meeting. And FACE, we've spoken to the authorities at FACE, and FACE is constantly reminding me, you need to remind those members, if they disclose their location, that's state law, and put the notice requirements in the way it's supposed to be, then they'll have voting rights.
Okay. So it sounds like there's nothing else to be done other than, what you suggested, changing things in the future.
Yep. And I think Francis and Shirley, and I want to thank Shirley for her presentation, is that as we are changing and hopefully coming out of the pandemic, there are certain elements of experiences in terms of engaging the community that will be very different, right? So and how do we capture that and prepare for that? I know there are a lot of PTAs as well as the CEC really talking about, like, what technology do we need? What are the things we need to purchase? What can we make available? And even if we have it, are we able to use that? So I will say, in terms of this conversation, to be continued, right? And what are our next steps? So, okay. Next is high school. So Bill, welcome.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I'm going to share my screen.
I'm uploading your presentation right now.
Oh,
It'll look better. Oh, okay, if you want, you can share this way. That's fine. Yep.
Do you see the screen?
Yeah, it's just not full screen. You're not in presentation mode, but we do see it. Yep.
All right. So I'm going to start. So the 21-22 student perception surveys are now open, and they're going to be open until January 21st. There's an opportunity. All schools that have 6 through 12 can access the survey by visiting that particular link. It will be administered online only, and share that information with students and staff for formative purposes. And this is not administered as part of advance, so it is not impacting teachers. I think that's an important piece to note. Number 2, the extended deadline to confirm principal attestation of annual Title I parent meetings and PAC elections. So all Title I schools are required to establish that Title I PAC. And I know that Gus has, spoken about this with all the DLTs. In accordance with the procedures described and finalized in the protocols and timeline, the PAC serves as the consultative and representative body for parents of the Title I students, and it helps ensure meaningful two-way communication between the school and the parents regarding the Title I student academic learning and other school activities. To confirm that your school conducted it, there's a form, and the deadline is December 10th. For periodic assessments, the fall window for periodic assessments for the ELA and the ELL MLL, which is a micro assessment, is going to be bundled from December 6th to January 21st. Schools that ordered those assessments, they should be, the ordering deadline was October 15th. So they should actually be in the buildings now. Schools also have been provided with the EDAT. This is data that has been provided to the school from the ELL directors and for their designees. And basically the EDAT contains critical data points to assist schools in making their strategic database decisions for MLL students. And it's really a document that schools want to utilize as they're programming and identifying students and identifying those next steps for students. I'm going to go to the next slide. An opportunity to participate in Computer Science Education Week. So this is again part of the Chancellor's initiatives that all students will partake in computer science initiatives, and this is included. This event provides an opportunity for every student to learn computer science. Staff are encouraged to participate in this week as well as the students, and that is during the week of December 6th. To host an event, you or your designee should share your plans, and there's a particular form by the 6th. I'm going to move down to the next piece, which is very interesting, the universal mosaic delivery of classroom reading collections. So as noted again in the P Digest, the universal mosaic curriculum and program and in an alignment with the Chancellor's instructional priorities, schools are receiving a set of culturally diverse and demographically representative trade books to supplement classroom libraries and support independent student reading. The week of December 13th, so that's this week, schools will start to receive those actual collections, which are additional sets of culturally diverse and representative trade books. The first round was for the junior high, 7th and 8th grade, and 11th grade. Note that the books will ship throughout the school year, so I guess it's on a rolling basis, and schools should be prepared to receive that shipment. For Regents, I put in the Regents schedule here, so you'll see that Regents are starting January 25th, which is a Tuesday, and ending on Friday, January 28th with the Earth Science Chemistry Regents exam. I'm going to scroll to the next slide. So Superintendent Lindsay has conducted a Zoom YouTube platform, a YouTube live platform for parents on November 15th from 6 to 7:30 in the evening. Parents from 5 schools across the district provided feedback on the transition back to in-person instruction through perspectives of parents. And there will be 3 other focus groups occurring throughout the school year. I'll keep you posted on those when I have the dates and the times available. And then the last 2 pieces. So the last one is an opportunity to provide input on federal waiver for state accountability. So this is our in the high school, we have 2 schools that are listed as TSI based on their ESSA accountability data. And as per this particular press release, the State Department is stating that on December 1st, DOE staff and other members have the opportunity to actually provide feedback on the proposed waiver for state accountability. So the request is related to making school and district accountability determination based on the assessment results. Again, this is really the Regents results to graduation rate. Staff and school community members should complete this particular survey. There's a link. By December 15th, and we're asked to share that link with school community and other constituents. This is a very positive thing. This last thing, one of our Flushing High School students, Brandon Morales, let's all give him a round of applause because He's going to be attending Haverford on a full scholarship. And he was accepted into this highly selective school. Again, it's 18% acceptance. Very good. It's called the Questbridge National College Match Scholarship. So he is now technically a black squirrel. That's their mascot. All of his hard work and effort, writing and rewriting his essays and applications have paid off. Congratulations to Brandon. That's really excellent, and it's excellent to for the school community as well. So that concludes the high school report. Any questions at this time, let me know.
Just comment on the DCP, Bill, and that I know that you and your team are working on it.
Sure. So yeah, we're currently in the process of working on the DCEPs. Dr. Quate and I are reviewing data, and I'm always asking Dr. D'Antona for his slide decks so that we can ensure that there's connections between the two, so that it's flowing from elementary right into the middle school and then into the high school, which that's what we're always trying to do, to make those connections and bridges.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. Pleasure.
Yep. All right. Thank you. And congratulations to Brandon. That's very exciting for someone who just went through that last year and is heading into college applications next year. I do know how difficult it is that each school asks for different criteria around application. So congratulations. That's very exciting news for him. Okay. Is there any new business? Any other additional people who want to question or comment? All right, so at this time, Lewis, can you just talk about how our members should be looking at selecting dates? And then we will review that and we'll be contacting via email. So we ask all DLT members to please vote and then respond. We're going to take the one that seems to be the most, that they vote on the date the most. And then from there, we're going to communicate via email about what will the agenda look like, what the date is, and so on and so forth. So go ahead, Lewis. Thank you.
No problem. So I just created a simple Google form which lists all of the available dates in January for a potential SLT training. The dates begin on Tuesday, January 18th and go through the end of the month. So there's a few dates to choose from. We're just going to ask everyone to choose any date and all dates that you are available to participate in an SLT training. So we're not just selecting one, you should be selecting as many as possible. And like Danielle said, we'll look at the results and we will use this to schedule the date on the training on a date that is most convenient for all of the DLT. So I'm going to go ahead and put this link in the chat. I'm also going to email it to everyone right now because I know some of our members are not on the call. So I'm going to email it as well. So you can go ahead and click on the link in the chat or the one I'm going to email in 1 second. And you can go ahead and vote. We're also asking at the very bottom of this survey, what time is most convenient for you? So the 2 times that we're asking is afternoon, which is anytime after 3 o'clock, after school hours. And then we are asking evening. So that would be later in the evening, let's say maybe 6 to 9 or something like that. And again, if you're available both afternoon and evening, please check off both boxes.
And I want to just say the reason that we're asking for evening, and I am up for discussion at late afternoon or evening, is because many of our schools do have some concerns with coverage of classes this time of year, which has been exacerbated due to the virus. So if possible, we would like to not have to ask schools to cover for during the day at school, so teachers will be with students. Okay. All right. So Lewis, you're putting it in the.
It's in the chat already,
Okay.
and I just emailed it to everyone as well. You only need to vote once, and you know,
All right. Perfect.
nobody,
Any questions? Yep.
nobody has voted yet, so which is interesting.
All right. Well, we give them time to process. It's a lot of dates. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. At this time, do we have consensus to end the meeting? Anyone, any disagreements? Should we stay here all day? I think it's the funniest thing. Shirley, are you going to help me end the meeting?
Absolutely, absolutely. So
You are. You are saying we
absolutely.
have consensus.
Yes. Before I just want to bring out that tonight, Queens High School President's Council meeting, we're going to say goodbye to Donald Conyers. He's going to come on our platform at 7 p.m. Just so y'all know. But barring anyone who disagrees, we have consensus
Thank
to
you.
end this meeting. If you
Thank
don't
you.
say anything, we have consensus.
Perfect.
We have
All right, guys, we will.
consensus.
Yep, we will see you next month. Our next meeting is January. If anybody can find it before me and call it out.
January 10th.
January 10th. All right. Everyone, have a happy and healthy winter break. Take some much needed rest and time to reconnect. And I'm looking forward to seeing you in 2022. All good
Everyone,
things.
Happy
everyone
holidays,
have a wonderful
everybody.
break, everyone. Happy
Okay.
holidays.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Have a great
Gus,
break.
Gus, if I can ask you,
I'm
hold
gonna
on for a minute.
sure.
No, Gus. I was asking Gus